Uh, My name is Linda Locke. I'm president of the Berryessa Citizens Advisory Council. And, oh, there he is. Good. You're right in time. Don't rush. Well, we haven't even started the business, so you're okay. All right. So we'll have a short business meeting, as I was saying, and we had all the questions have been submitted ahead of time and reviewed by the screening committees so that we don't have 3 or 4 of the same question and no personal questions other than, why are you doing something or other? But anyway, so we want to do no, what was I going to say? There's no campaigning inside the room here, so the campaigns are outside. There is no filming of in here, no filming, because we'll be doing the filming. So if you want it, you can check our website, okay? So let me see what else. All the questions have been screened, and so we'll get through as many as we can. You want me a little closer? Okay. Let's see. All right, let's get started. Okay. All right, we had the minutes. They were sent out electronically to the members. And so if anybody has any comments, there were very short minutes last month because we had the sheriff's candidates. And we just gave an overall view of what went on last meeting. So if anybody has comments about the April minutes, I don't see any. Okay, good. We're accepting them as they were presented. The treasurer's report is Susan Fowle.
Good evening, everyone. I have the treasurer's report for the month of April 2022. Our beginning balance on April 1st was $3,632.05. We had an income of $20, which were 2 membership due payments. There were no expenses. Our ending balance on April 30th, 2022 was $3,652.05. We have a City of San Jose District 4 grant with a balance of $10,000. There was no income to that or no expenses. If you have membership dues that you would like to pay, they are $10 for the remainder of the year. You get coffee, an amazing meeting, and a lot of neighborhood support here with all of your neighbors and friends. So you could see me after the meeting. I take cash, checks, credit cards, anything you got. Thank you.
Okay, and from the police department representing San Jose Police Captain Todd Traeger.
All right. Hi, everyone. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. If you're a mom, happy Mother's Day. I just spent a lot of money on my wife's Mother's Day gift. So hope you had a good time. There's been a lot going on, and I'm going to take this off if that's okay, just because I'm far enough away from everybody, just so you can hear me. I'll start with traffic enforcement, but I want to tell you something I started. It's been 1 week. I call it the Foothill Traffic Calming Project. The reason why I did it is because so many people are getting run over or in traffic accidents. At one point, I counted 260 traffic accidents in 30 days in the northern part of the Foothill Division, which is between like here and Tully Road. That's too many. That's regular people like us just driving the neighborhood and hitting each other. I've had 11 fatal accidents, including the one right off of Suncrest, where one person passed away and one person was significantly hurt. And 12 people have died in my division since January. That's too many. So the Traffic Calming Project, I didn't ask for permission, so if I get in trouble for this, I apologize. But every shift, I have 2 officers in full visibility. So they are assigned to go out from their teams and sit somewhere that I decide, and they are out there for at least an hour or 2. I've already seen a reduction in 1 week because we all do the same thing when we drive by police, right? We slow down. The officers can sit and be visible. They can do traffic citations. They can do warnings. There's no quota, but their job is just to be visible. I already got a call from 2 council people, one up here asking why there are so many police on White Road. And the answer is they're doing the traffic calming. It is working. So you might see them out there. Please drive carefully. Because if you get a ticket, you're still a good person, but I don't want you to get one. Okay. This month we had 6 accidents before we started this project. 3 of them were minor injuries, 2 were non-injuries, and then 1 hit and run. So that's a lot for this little zone right here. That's a lot of accidents in 30 days. Cinco de Mayo was this last weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Very busy, very successful for the police department. Thursday was super busy. Over the weekend, we got over 10 guns off the street. Most were ghost guns, which are unregistered guns. Many were from gang members, and it was your Foothill Division officers that did it. So I'm very proud of them. I would give them a raise, but I can't. There's been 62 traffic stops in this area. I always kind of talk about the ones on Sierra Road where they write citations. I see 4 citations at Sierra and Skyview, and then the rest are just along Sierra all the way down. They've been doing a lot of traffic on Sierra, a lot on Berryessa and White Road. White Road is one of the 4 main hotspots I'm focusing on right now. Finally, we are here for you. I know you're hearing and seeing a lot in the news about San Jose Police Department if you pay attention. It's just been some real major things going on. I want you to know we're working through it. We are always monitoring ourselves as a police department to be better for you. So just know that I am personally very involved in making things stronger. You'll read things if you haven't in the media about what's been happening. We're a wonderful department still, but like every business, we have these times, these spurts of things that happen that are just not okay. So we're fixing it. So, and I can talk to you offline later if you want. But that's all I have for my update. I hope that's okay. Thank you.
We're trying to make them a little bit short, so that was great. And representing the Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Jeremy Jones.
Hello, everybody. I would like to feel like I'm kind of like warm welcome here, but every time I have to go after Captain Traer, it's a bit tough, right? I feel like a visitor, right, in the home field. But no, we are actually a team, and first off, I like to thank them as always. Sometimes they say the blue and green don't get along, but their efforts, San Jose's efforts, especially in the Berryessa community, has been astounding. And with the efforts of Cinco de Mayo was great. I was actually off that day, but we got good reports back. We assisted. So we're looking forward to that, and 4th of July with Captain Traer leading the charge on that. So good job to them. For us, we've been really focusing on Sierra Road. We actually recovered 3 stolen vehicles this month up on Sierra Road. We had one vehicle that was driven through a property all the way up top Sierra Road, damaged the fence and was left there unoccupied. And then our deputies actually went up there and they made 2 citations, what we call them arrests, but they issued 2 citations for trespassing, which somebody wanted to be a victim of trespassing. So we actually started to do that, and a lot of citations up there in Sierra Road. Around here, again, we're trying to be visible, especially during school hours or day shift. Deputies, we want to tell them to be as visible as possible, especially with all the traffic accidents and fatalities we're hearing on there. We're working together with San Jose, but especially when the kids get out and cross and it's heavy foot traffic and pedestrian traffic, we really want to be visible. And what we're telling our deputies, be around, be that source to where people slow down. I know people are in a hurry to pick up their kids and drop off their kids, but just be that eye so everybody can slow down and stop. So again, always hard going after Captain Traer, but just want to echo that. In every police department, there's a lot of hardships that go on, but for the majority of the department, we do a lot of good things, and we couldn't do this without the support of the community. We are both high ranking in our divisions, but we enjoy coming here and speaking with the community, and we're just going to echo that back down to our troops. So thank you guys for giving us the support, and thank you to San Jose, us, and the council here for having us. So if you guys have any questions, you guys could have my email. I'll respond to my email at any point in time. So just let us know. And lastly, happy Mother's Day to everybody that did it. My pockets are a little thin too for Mother's Day. So you guys have a good one.
We enjoy having the representatives here. So we're going to start the forum now, and we'll get through as many questions as we can. The moderator tonight is going to be Dr. Roxanne Fuentes, the superintendent of the Berryessa School District. So she'll go over the procedures just so you'll know what's going on.
Thank you, President Locke. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our State Assembly District 24 Candidate Forum. I'd like to welcome all 5 of our candidates that decided to join us this evening. We look forward to hearing what you have to share with us tonight. Just to share with you, we do have a timekeeper who will assist you in your responses. That is Vishnu right over here. So you can keep an eye on him. For our introduction, you'll have 2 minutes, but with all of our questions that have been prepared, you'll have a minute and a half for your responses. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all of our members of the Berryessa Citizens Advisory Council for submitting all the questions that I'll be asking of our candidates this evening. So we look forward to tonight being a very informative event. So to begin, we're going to go ahead and just start with each candidate having the opportunity to do a brief introduction of yourself. And so that'll be 2 minutes. We'll begin with candidate Kansan Chu.
Hello, can you hear me? All right, great. Thank you very much, Dr. Fuentes. Also want to congratulate you being the BCAC Citizen of the Year 2020.
Yeah.
And I'm very honored to say that I was the Citizen of the Year selected by this distinguished body back in 2012. So,
Congratulations.
just a few years ahead of you. But again, my name is Kansan Chu. I've been living in this community for 38 years. It's been a great honor and a privilege to serve this community for over 2 decades. I served on the Santa Clara County Mental Health Board and the Work to Future Board, and very proud to serve on the Berryessa NAB Board, a Neighborhood Accountability Board. Have the privilege and honor to serve the Berryessa student for 7 years and San Jose City Council for 8 years, and was very honored to serve as your assembly member for 6 years. At the year 2020, I have to, and I need to, I want to move back and work closer to home to take care of my very old and not so well mother. And she passed away peacefully at home last April. So I seen that the politics are very, very polarized. And therefore, I wanted to bring my years of life experience as an immigrant who came to the United States with a few $100s in my pocket and be able to raise a family here in Berryessa. And also my work experience. I work at IBM for 18 years and I have a small business background. And also my government experience, just I mentioned that earlier. Thank you very much, BCAC, for having this forum.
Thank you. Our next candidate, candidate Landeep.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lun Diop. It's a pleasure to see all of you. Some familiar faces again. Some of your kids might know me as a colleague from high school days. I went to school here at Independence. Some of you might remember me as the former council member for this area. And now I'm running for state assembly. I am, during the pandemic, I took some time off and I was helping some folks file claims for unemployment because there was that program where people who had never been eligible before could. And I was helping them through that process. And I found myself frustrated helping them through that, through the technology, through the forms. I had some people still today who I tried to help who never got denied, but were never actually given anything either. They're just stuck in limbo. And I felt that our state could do better. I know that unemployment is one example, the DMV. Just today, I was reading in the news that about 70% of the electric chargers that are public in the state of California aren't working in some way or another. So I want California to focus on the basics. I want us to be brilliant at the basics, to do things well and focus rather than try to do so many things at once where we expend our energies and our resources and not make anybody happy, really. So I'm really running to bring a narrow focus to our state government, and I hope that the night will be illuminating in that regard. So thank you, and I hope to have your consideration.
Thank you. Candidate Alex Lee.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Lee. I'm currently serving as your state assembly member now, representing Berryessa. I actually live down the street from here on Maybury, but as many of you remarked, it's the first time seeing me in a tie is because I actually came straight from Sacramento, from the state capitol today, where we are celebrating API Heritage Month, and I just passed a bill to reduce traffic and get more people to ride other transit options. And I'm running for re-election because I won our election last time in historic time with pandemic wreaked so much havoc in everyday lives. And just in this area alone during my term, I helped over 2,000 families get help. 2,000 families that would not have had the assistance directly from our state because they lost their job, lost a roof over their head. And that's why I continue to fight to make sure everyone can call this community home. I proudly grown up in this area, but it is becoming incredibly impossible for people of my generation, people even double my age, to find and call this place a home. The house in front of mine, although our houses are very nice, sold for $1.6 million. I cannot afford something like that. Many folks cannot do that. And that's why we must make California livable and affordable for everyone. And that's why housing has been my central theme since day one, fighting against corporate speculation, against people that commodify our housing, because houses should be homes, not just investment commodities that people are incredibly trading. And that's why also I'm the only candidate, even though I'm the incumbent, to not take any corporate special interest money in my campaign at all. I don't take any corporate money. That's because I believe in being accountable to you and making a government that's accountable to people, not to the highest bidder. And that's why I want to continue my work in the state legislature to make sure we have housing and healthcare for all, while making sure our government is not beholden to corporate special interests.
Thank you. Candidate Teresa King.
Thank you, Dr. Fuentes. Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa King. I'm currently serving on the Fremont City Council on my second term. So I came to the United States at age 15 to attend high school. And little did I know I would be escaping a home with domestic violence and pursuing my American dream. So when I went to college at UCLA, my parents were not in the country. And I would come back to the Bay Area during school breaks and stay at people's homes during school break. So I have definitely been blessed by the community. And fast forward 30 years, I'm now a small business owner in Fremont. I ran for city council the first time in 2018. I was reelected in 2020 with 99% of the district votes. So as a first generation immigrant, as a woman, as a mom of 2 kids on the autism spectrum, and as a wife to a Marine veteran, we actually had our fair share of struggle during the pandemic. My family was able to survive. Both my kids are on the autism spectrum. Distance learning was extremely difficult for them, and for many of the kids as well here in Berryessa district. My business survived. My husband actually had a stroke 6 months into the pandemic, and but our family are lucky to have survived but looking at many small businesses around the state, many families are still having a very hard time. So I'm pursuing a doctoral degree at San Jose State University, and to advocate for better funding for our kids, to make sure that our kids are not falling behind during this pandemic. It is important that as parents, we fight for our kids. We'll do anything to fight for our kids. It's important to help our small businesses
time.
to survive from pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Bob Brunton.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Brunton. During the course of this campaign, I've been called a few other things too. I've been called the old man with the great new ideas. I'm also a part of a group called the Braver Angels, which is a group that routinely gets Republicans and Democrats to work together. It's backgrounds from Abraham Lincoln during the Civil War, when this country even had bigger divides than they do today. And They also call me the common sense Republican, and I'm proud to have that as well, because we are the fastest growing part of the Republican Party in this area is the common sense Republicans. We'll talk about that. The reason why my campaign is really focused on solutions to problems. I'm an engineering type background, and I'm going to bring that type of experience to Sacramento. You know, our state has so many problems, but I decided just to focus in on 4 of them. Now, one is to improve education dramatically, because it's over 54% of the budget of California. Secondly, is talking about mass transit and transportation reforms from the tremendous waste we have with VTA, BART, and other type of issues. We'll talk about that. Also about civil justice reforms, because that's a critical element problem. Almost every problem in California has been made worse, sometimes by our lawyers, the way they treat things in California. And fourth is about just getting back to trust and respect and how our government works. Similar to what Lon was talking about that as well. Make our government work better. Now, as far as my background, how I can pull this off, there's 4 types of experiences you should know about me. One, been 40 years business ownership in the area. Started in electronics manufacturing, then also a financial wealth management company and architectural energy conservation services. I also served 12 years, 3 times as an elected official at Loney Community College in Fremont. Third area of connection is the fact I'm the only candidate that's actually tried real hard to get along with everyone in our district. I helped start the Newark Toastmasters. I helped start the Fremont Education Foundation, which was designed to bring music back to the schools. Involved with the Milpitas Chamber. I get involved in everyone. I've been part of this.
Thank you. That's time.
Santa Clara County. Good. Bob Brunton for State Assembly. We'll talk some more.
Thank you. So thank you very much for those introductions. Now we're going to move into our formal questions. As a reminder, you have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. In all fairness, we will rotate through each candidate to be the first to answer each question, and we'll take turns in that manner. So to begin with our first question, we'll begin with candidate Chu. Why are you running for state assembly, and what are your top 3 priorities?
Thank you. Can I stand up? I don't want to get all of your screen here. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, the reason I mentioned it earlier that I want to go back to the assembly is to really offer my year-long of life experience being an immigrant, working in the high tech and small business person, and raising a family here. And also, I wanted to offer my work experience in the high tech, IBM, and the small business. And I had a restaurant business with my lovely wife, Daisy, there, and also my decades of community services experience to focus on those business that the state need to really focus on, not to promote any ideologies that maybe belongs to the federal government or to intrude on the local government for local control. And so that's why I'm running. And is that the second part?
Your top 3 priorities.
Oh, my top 3 priority is definitely public safety, education, and mental health, housing, because I say mental health because I believe that really impact the housing and the public safety and the education of our state. So mental health and transportation is also a big issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Right ahead. Would you like to repeat the question?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, yes, go right
My turn.
ahead.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, so my 3 priorities, top 3 priorities are housing, infrastructure, and public safety. I agree with Assemblymember Lee that housing is an issue for our time. I think I would disagree with him about how we get the housing built. For me, housing, as someone who's looking to buy a home, who would like to start a family in this area where I also grew up, I can't. And yet my parents were refugees from Vietnam, who came here with nothing, and they were able to buy a home and provide for myself and my family, or my brother and I, our family. I don't feel that I could do that today. I worry that Alex and I and our generations to follow won't be able to do that in this area. But for me, it's not just we need more housing. It's a technical issue. It's a land use issue. It's private property rights, and how do we balance public use of funds and using the private market to do things to spur that sort of development. And I think that's where we might differ. Infrastructure, to me, California's infrastructure, the United States infrastructure is crumbling. But throughout our state, we're facing wildfires, we're facing droughts. We need to reinvest in our infrastructure to make things work for Californians. And of course, public safety. We need to find ways to recruit more officers, to recruit more firefighters. But it's not simply just saying raising pay. People don't want to be officers anymore. People don't want to be firefighters anymore. And when we have wildfires, we're sending people in prison to fight our fires to get time off for public service. That's not sustainable. So how do we go about doing that? These are the things that I'm going to be trying to focus on during my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lee.
Thank you. So in my first term, I was able to serve on 7 committees and pass 7 bills out of the legislature. But my top 3 things I would say I am most interested in, and our top priorities are housing and homelessness, getting corporate money out of politics, and universal health care. And to that end, I have 4 bills pending right now that I personally have authored about housing and housing affordability. And what we need, especially right now, the housing crisis, is all options on the table. And that includes alternatives to the speculative for-profit market. Right now, if you want to develop housing, affordable housing, who's the people you go to? You go to for-profit developers, and they don't always build in the interest of the community. We need to obviously have some of that, but we also have to have our public option. That's why I have a landmark legislation of social housing. And then secondly, when it comes to universal healthcare, I was at the forefront, a main author of universal healthcare for all Californians. Right now, as we proved during the pandemic, when your healthcare is tied to your employment, how vulnerable so many communities can be. When they lose their job, they lose their healthcare, they lose all their benefits. It's not sustainable and makes us pariah of the developed world to not provide universal healthcare. And the last thing, of course, as you heard me say, I am only one of 2 legislators in the entire state of California that does not take any corporate money, because I think there are too many special interests out there that seek a profit, whether it's our housing, our healthcare, or our environment, that will block all the change. So we need to get rid of that. And I have introduced 2 bills that are still working their way through legislature right now.
Thank you. Candidate King.
Yes. So Asian American women has been the least represented group in the state of California. Currently, from Northern California, there are no Asian American women to represent us in the state assembly. And as you can see, I'm the only woman in on this panel because it has been harder for women to run for office because we're the main caretaker in the home. So my top 3 priorities will be education, public safety, and supporting small businesses and providing better job opportunities for our young people. In the state of California, we're the 5th largest economy in the world. However, when we look around in our schools, our kids deserve better. We need to make sure they have all the resources they have for them to succeed in the future. Looking at San Jose State University, there are 4,000 students living in their cars. It's heartbreaking, and we're failing our students. My restaurant in Fremont has been broken into 4 times in the last 2 years. We need to make sure that we are providing the basic safety that our community needs, especially with the Asian hate crime, with all the crime rising in our community in the last 2 years. Supporting small businesses and making sure that our kids have the good job opportunities that can allow them to succeed and achieve their American dreams will be my top priorities. Thank you.
I'm a son of a city manager, and my dad told me that, son, you can last a long time as a city manager if you just go along with the flow. But if you do the job right, you're going to irritate everybody once. And I'm going to Sacramento, not necessarily to irritate people, but I'm probably going to. Because reality is we need to reform our state government and restructure it. We have an educational system that was set up back in the 1940s. Waters was set up in the 1920s. These are not the way California looks today, and they need to be dealt with. My core 3 issues you sort of heard. It's talking about education reform, because it's 54% of our budget. I'll be looking at it very holistically and ways to improve it for all the children we have and all the students. In transportation, we have 25 mass transit agencies in the Bay Area. They don't work well together. And you here in Santa Clara have 0 votes on anybody on the board. I get to vote for mass transit because I live in Alameda County. We get to vote for BART and our AC transit. You don't get to vote for VTA. And the third thing I'll be focusing on, as you sort of heard, is getting back to trust and competence in our state government. Because at the end of the day, if we don't trust and competence our government, we are not be able to get the results we need. Thank you.
Thank you. For our second question, what differentiates you and sets you apart from the other candidates? And this time we'll begin with candidate Deep.
Thank you for the question. We have 4 Asians, 4 electeds or former with elected experience. So there are a lot of similarities in this panel. And I even would venture to say a lot of us agree on what the issue should be. I think what distinguishes me among this field is my history of national service. I'm an AmeriCorps alum. That led me to running for elected office into that. Now, when you're an elected official, you have resources, you have support staff. When you're in the military or in the Peace Corps, in the AmeriCorps, in the battlefield or in the field of a disaster, you're just there to get things done. And you don't care who's there with you. Anyone who's willing to lend a hand, you start and you do something, and you make a difference inch by inch, day by day. And that kind of spirit to focus in on solutions, to just leave the place better than when you found it, is a spirit that I would have run to San Jose and would bring to Sacramento as well. For that sort of work, I've been recognized by President Obama as a champion of change, by President Herbert Walker Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, as a daily point of light. So this idea of national service and doing good for good's sake is something that's central to who I am. And I think that's what distinguishes me from this crowd. Thank you.
Candidate Lee.
I guess what distinguishes me from this crowd is I'm the only person running right now who currently represents you in the state assembly. I'm currently your state assembly member, and I'm grateful for that opportunity every single day to represent my home area. I'm just reminded of the Art and Wine Festival this year when I met so many people come up to me and they said 2 years ago, "Oh, you came to my door, you talked to me," and there was never a candidate who's ever done that before in their entire life. And then someone also said, "And then you came to my house last week, so you come again." And that's really what service is about. It's about getting to the people, meeting people where they're at. And that's also why I'm also the only candidate that doesn't take any corporate money. I'm also the only state legislator out of 120 that is in their 20s, even though that's 25% of the entire population where we are not represented. And right now, I want to continue using my lived experience of growing up in this community to fight for our community. Because right now, we are at a crossroad where we can become a state where it's only for those who can afford to live here, or for those who want to own a piece of the California dream and want to call home and hopefully leave it better for all the future generations. And that's why I've served on 7 committees, including the state budget committee, where I'm making all of our tax dollars work smarter and harder during the surplus. Usually don't put freshman members on the budget committee and also on the education committee. And that's why we're able to have a historic amount of funding towards our education system. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Candidate King.
Yes. So there are actually quite a few things that differentiate me from the rest of the candidates. So first, I'm a woman. I'm the only woman candidate. Our needs to be heard. I'm blessed to have my mom here, who's actually one of my biggest supporters, and we all know that mom knows best, right? So when we're advocating for our children, I'm actually getting a doctoral degree from education leadership from San Jose State. I'm not just saying that I support education, but I want to make sure that fundings are advocated for our schools, for our children. I'm also a survivor of domestic violence and sexual assault. As we know that during the pandemic, domestic violence have been on the rise, and we need to protect our women's rights and their voices. I'm also probably one of the few small business owners here that has survived the pandemic. We need to continue to support our local small businesses. I also have 2 kids on the autism spectrum. The community of disabilities, of special needs to be supported. Our community is growing, but our budgets are being reduced, are being taken away, and our voice needs to be represented and needs to be heard. So I hope to have your support. Thank you.
Well, I won't take the easy shot that I'm a Republican, but let me say this to you. This just sounds kind of trite, but it's true. I'm the only one that has to tell the truth. Otherwise, I lose my license. I have a certified financial planner and I checked with him ahead of time. I'm 24/7, regardless of whether I'm on duty or not. I have to put the best interests of you as if you're my client. No one else has to do that. I have to go through ethics training to make sure that I tell the truth. And even the stuff that's bad, I have to bring out to my clients. And that's how I'm going to be working with you as well. Tell you the truth, teach you with candor, treat you with respect, because to fix this state, we need to be honest with you. Too often you get lied to, you get over exaggerated to. That's not going to happen with Bob Brunton. I'm willing to take the heat, to take the blame, to fix things in our state government and give you the credit to get things done. I will practice statesmanship to get things done. That's what I had to do. You know, we all were elected before. And I was, even though it was one Republican, 6 Dems on the board I was on, many times I got to turn it to 4-3 through the power of good ideas, persuasion, working together. And lastly, I would say this: the skill sets of getting elected are very different than the skill sets of governing. And I'm really good at the governing side. I know that. Check out my Ohlone record, how I do things with
That's
business.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Chu?
Well, thank you very much. I think the big differences in this race is that I'm a very grassroots campaigner. You know, I have received more than 3,000 small amount donors. I took money from all walks of life. I think they are all part of the stakeholders, but the corporate donation is probably less than 5% of all the contributing that I have received. That 5% counted for those that have taken the corporate money and give it to me. You know, so although indirectly corporate money is also counted in that 5%. So no special interest group has contributed more than 5% of my campaign, mostly all the everyday people. And I'm a good listener. You know, I have listened to the constituent over the 6 years as your assembly member. I have turned hundreds of people's idea into the law. You know, and one of them is to abolish this time switch, the daylight saving time. So that's a trade of mine. I listen to you and I work for you. That's very, very important. And I can deliver result. Thank you.
Time, thank you. And now for our third question. What are the current challenges facing our district and state? And how do you propose to address them? We'll begin with candidate Lee.
Well, there are a lot of challenges certainly facing our state, our country, and our district right now, but I cannot think of one that intimately affects so many of us as the housing crisis. Right now, it is vastly unaffordable for folks to rent, to buy a home, and to stay here in California. It is very, very difficult. And that's why we need to have an above all approach. We need to make sure that homeowners who want to do their part, getting ADUs or new units in their backyard, are able to do that and cut the government red tape. At the same time, we have to empower cities and localities to have a public option, such as social housing, to develop more affordable housing across the spectrum. Right now, even when we're only building above market rate housing. And that, of course, is necessary for folks who make above a median income, but we need to have homes available for everyone. And we are making it for decades and decades of inaction. Now that I have joined the State Assembly, we create a new select committee for social housing. We're passing new landmark legislation for housing to assist our cities in the fight to produce more affordable housing. And serving on the budget committee, we're putting billions with a B, billions of more dollars of resources towards getting people off the streets, into services, into housing, because we need to act quickly and decisively now. And that's why I'm proud to be working on legislation and budgetary investments to deliver for the district to keep people housed, or get people housed and keep people housed.
Thank you. Candidate King.
Yes, I think one of the few top issues that we're facing is high cost of living, homelessness, and racial equity issues. Our children are facing a much harder time than we did when we were able to purchase homes. We need to make sure that they have the high-paying jobs with benefits when they graduate from high school, because not every kid can afford to go to college. So for example, in Germany, they have 50% of their high school students in a vocational program where they'll be making $30 to $50 an hour plus benefits upon graduation, because making $15 an hour isn't going to put a roof over someone's head. We also need to treat homelessness before the unhoused people, before their mental and physical health deteriorate, and which would cost even more to help them and won't be effective. We also need to make sure that we have the racial equity. Many small businesses weren't able to access the grants and loans that are available to them during the pandemic because of language barriers. We need to make sure that we support these first-generation immigrants. They have their bread and butter, their life saving in their small businesses, and they had to close their doors. So good job opportunities for our young people. These homelessness, treating homelessness, and achieving racial equity will be my top priority. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Brenton.
I think the biggest thing we lack is the lack of imagination in our government. You know, we live in Silicon Valley where companies reinvent themselves on a regular basis, but our government still is stratified. It can't think outside the box. They don't even know they're in a box sometimes. I don't even think. You know, I didn't bring up housing much because it is a subset of several problems that have come to head. So when we talked about housing, we'll come up with creative ideas how to deal with this. But what we lack is the lack to, our citizens are beginning to claim, I've been knocking on doors, education reform. The children have been left behind. They're nervous about the masks, how they're getting back into school. They've been worried about, they're starting to see traffic get bad again. And they're wondering when that's going to fix up. But they just don't trust our government much. And my job is going to be to try to make you believe again. Get that dream again. This should be the most wonderful place in the world to live. God gave us tremendous weather and geography, but it's our government that's messing it up. And so Bob Brown's going to try to fix those things. And lastly, I'm trying to be the connector of the different generations. They call me an Xer, which is fine. They kind of not a boomer, not a millennial, trying to get together to make sure I've got children, grandchildren. I want to try to get all our people to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Chu.
Thank you. I think there's one common thread here that we're really not happy with the way that California is going. We hear people talking about the problem with the education, public safety, environmental issue, wildfire, water issue, hate crime, and housing, homelessness. So I think what I would like to do is to bring my experiences, life experience, work experience, and government experience to address the root cause of those problems, not just trying to fix the symptom. The government is so polarized. I don't think there's enough effort that we're focusing on resolving the root cause of many the problems that we're facing today. Everybody was talking about, those issues. Hate crime is another one, right? But we need to address the root cause of those problems. And that's how we can fix the problem. It might take a little bit longer, but not just to put a Band-Aid on some of the issues and not really resolving the root cause of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Deep.
Yeah, with a minute and a half, it's really hard to go through a laundry list with any substance about what challenges they're facing. I agree with most of what's been said. I think I would add to that you know, there was an LA Times article or editorial. I think California, our state legislature, was on track to pass something between 700 and 1,000 new laws recently, and frankly, I think that's too much. Because we have elected officials, you know, who want to do good by the people, but then you try to push this law to get your name in the news and attach your name to a bill, and it becomes just this thing where you got that news cycle. Now you need another bill to get another headline. What I would prefer to do is look at the bills we have, the laws we have on the books, and see what's working, what's not working, and amend those. Focus on making things work well for Californians rather than just chasing after new ideas and new bills. You know, in California, our budget, you know, we could use more transparency in budgeting. In no other budgeting situation that I've seen would you have a situation where if you have a deficit and then you put out a bond or something, that's counting as new revenue to balance the books. It should count as debt. And people should know that, yes, we borrowed money to address this shortfall, but it's debt. And so we're actually revenue negative. But because of the magic of budgeting in California, it looks like, oh, we balanced the books. And I don't think that's quite where we need to be. We need to be clear and transparent. Housing, of course, is a high situation. We need to build more housing, of course, but let's be honest, how many of you in this room are opposing the development right on Penitencia and Capitol, that 8-story building or 6-story building? We have to, you know, listen to neighborhoods and try to figure out a way where we can build into housing while taking into account the considerations on the local, on the local level.
Thank you. Our next question, or I'm sorry. Yes, our next question, number 4, demonstrate how you have made a negative into a positive that have benefited our community at large. And we begin with candidate King.
Yes. So in 2019, when Fremont was proposing to build a homeless navigation center in Fremont, many of our residents didn't understand what it was for, and they were afraid of, you know, all the negative impact that it could bring to the community. So, you know, I engage in conversations. I talked to, you know, both sides. You know, there's different opinions on the whole spectrum, and there were, you know, people that did not want any such center in our city, and there were people, of course, you know, want one in every district. But at the end, we were able to achieve a center in the location that has the most access to resources, that has the best transportation, best access to healthcare, and best access to job opportunities at the downtown of our city. So I think that was a demonstration of me having an open door policy, being willing to listen to what people need and address the concerns of a potential negative situation. You know, it probably remembers Fremont was on the news a lot during that time. You know, people were protesting, and then people were being called NIMBYs while, you know, when they had concerns for their community, which probably wasn't all true, but I think when we are engaging in conversation, we can achieve a better result. Thank you.
I'll give you 2 examples. In the city of Newark, my name is on a building. I'm proud of that. It's on the Newark Ohlone Center there. And that building of that facility was a big achievement for a lot of different ways. If you don't understand the dynamics of Fremont, Newark politics, making sure that we have a new center in the city of Newark, and then also where it was to be located, because at one time, one person wanted to give away the property on the salt flats of Cargill, and most of my so-called, well, people who didn't understand business very thought that was a great deal. And I said, no, I'll tell you something. Sometimes free property is the most expensive property, because it would have been a tremendous amount of money to fix up the property. The environmental aspects of it would have been horrible. Moved it to where it is in the middle, in a great location in Newark, built it to the LEED standard of gold. At that time, it was the first thermal heated building, which we led the way in that. And providing also outstanding educational programs where we then coordinated with both Fremont and Newark schools. The second thing, real quickly, and in fact, since it was a business ownership, was a part of a touchscreen company down in Valencia. And I would commute every week between Fremont and Valencia. And we had big fires down there, and it was horrible. and the firemen are trying to get things done. But because we were making touchscreens, we had all sort of clean room, class 100, class 10,000 clean rooms. We shut down the factory and put sick people who were dying or and start, harming from the smoke and inhalation.
Time.
It gave them a chance to get ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shu?
Thank you. As a public servant for the last 20-some years, every every proposal that I push forward always have some negative feedback. So it takes engineer analytic skill, and it takes to listen to the people, understand the root cause of their opposition, and work with them to really come to a central compromise. So it is a very, very important. One of the issue that I see Director Santos there is when I was on the San Jose City Council, we'll have decided to do a neighborhood plan for the North San Jose development. Those 20, 30-year obsoleted tilt-top industrial building, we want to make it into a job center. And the resident there was very up in arms to say, no, we don't want any development in the North San Jose. And I get a North San Jose neighborhood plan going, and with a task force, more than 28 community members and different representatives from different trade to work on that for 3 years before we come out with the North Neighborhood Plan. And now I encourage you to visit the North San Jose. You see how
That's
vibrant
time.
it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Deep?
So what's the negative into a positive? One thing that comes to mind is something that happened right here in this room some years ago. When I was on the council, I was following then council member, now Assembly Member Chu. And right after he left, shortly after he left, the homeless community living along the Coyote Creek were forced out of Coyote Creek because of a lawsuit where environmentalists said the homeless community is polluting our streams, and so they can't be hidden away anymore. And that's when, not that homelessness didn't exist in San Jose, but that's when it became much more visible. And so my tenure on the council was dealing with that. We on the council during my tenure agreed to have a tiny home village in each council district, 10 council districts. We try to have 10 sites for homelessness. There was one site, the only parcel of land in North San Jose in District 4 identified right by the library, by Noble Library. And it was in this room with a town hall on homelessness, not on that particular project, but on homelessness with Supervisor Cortese, sheriffs and police department. The community came to protest this idea of putting a tiny home village next to the library. And it was just the only site available. Well, that was some of you might have been here, but it was a very angry meeting. And eventually I worked with the city to get the site moved over to VTA property, not city property, but we had to work with other agencies, listen to neighbors, and even some opposition from neighbors on that side, near that site. But we were able to satisfy the community to a certain extent, still move progress on the tiny home village. And that's an example of negative to positive.
Thank you. Candidate Lee?
So of a negative turn into positive, I cannot think of any bigger negative we all lived through and are living through, the pandemic. I took office in December 2020, pre-vaccine, during the 2020 holiday surge. And right immediately, we got to work helping millions of people across California who were suffering. But there's a great silver lining to this. Of the so many people that were hurting, we took urgent action on the budget committee to provide direct rental relief to small landlords and directly tenants, the eviction moratorium, as well as directly helping over 2,000 families with unemployment insurance because their job was gone like that because of the pandemic. But we learned a lot, of course, as well through the pandemic. We learned, and the silver lining is that government can work fine on Zoom or teleconferencing. And that's why I have 2 bills on that to make sure that if you want to make your voice heard, a public comment at City Council, you can still do that. You can still do that and make it work. We also learned that telecommuting works for a lot of folks. And we also learned that having a government that cares for you, a government that's for the people, ought to be by a government for a government by people, let's be for the people and be there and help people in their darkest time. And that's why I'm really proud to be on the State Assembly now, working on the Budget Committee, because there's so many things we learned during the pandemic that we can reinforce. And also because because we're so familiar with Zoom, I'm also able to now do office hours one-on-one with constituents every month on Zoom. And I've met so many people and helped so many folks and directly elevate 6 constituent cases to the Secretary of Housing
Thank you.
and Urban
That's
Development.
time. Our next question. Californians pay gas prices that are the highest in the nation. The working poor and middle class are begging for legislature for relief. Do you support a temporary suspension of the California gas tax? If not, what would you support or introduce? Candidate Brenton.
Wow, thank you for that easy question. And we're all frustrated by the extremely high cost of gas. But a temporary fix is not the fix. We have a structural problem about our gas prices here in California. Now, the Brunton plan, first of all, is to make sure that you're aware of where the taxes, what the taxes are. I would like to see the receipt be treated just like when I go to a hotel and it has all the breakout of all the charges, that I know exactly what these taxes are, because the first step of fixing this problem is to make you folks aware what the taxes are. The second thing Brunton would do is make sure the gas tax is spent for the purpose it was collected for, near the location it was collected at. That way you could support your roads here in Berryessa by buying gas at the Shell station near Berryessa, as opposed to running some sort of overpass down in Southern California or a train that's going somewhere else. Support your local areas. Yes, we need to reduce gas prices, but we need to have a bigger discussion about that as well. But a temporary fix is just a Band-Aid. I'm sorry about that, but let's make you aware where those taxes are going first. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Chu.
Thank you. Yes, I support a moratorium to temporarily lower the gasoline tax. And if we're not lowering the gasoline tax, the other alternative is not to increase the gasoline tax comes in July. Because in 2018, the state passed SB1, which will use the gasoline tax for the infrastructure repair and it's limited to repair. And instead of increasing it, all at once, and SB1 specified that we will gradually increase for the next 5 to 10 years. So you will see another increase in July. And if we cannot hold a moratorium to decrease the gasoline tax that we're paying right now, I think one I would definitely advocate is to halt the increase in July. Those money for the infrastructure can be backfilled by the surplus of our state budget for this year, or we can reshovel those project and still make the state road repair budget whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Dave.
So on the issue of the gas tax, I would not support a reduction on that tax temporarily. I don't think there's any guarantee that it goes to where it needs to go. I do support relief, and that would mean relief rebate checks going to each and every one of us, taxpayers at least, rather than just reducing it at the pump. Just money in your pocket, use it however you'd like, because I think the cost, the inflation is not just limited to car owners. It's not just people who pay the gas tax. It's people buying food. It's people going shopping for whatever they need to buy for their homes. And so the relief is inflation relief. It's not just specifically targeted to the gases and the cars. And so I think would be my solution. I think there's talk right now of like $200 rebate checks coming from Sacramento. I think that's a way to do it, maybe more. But I would not support a reduction in the gas tax because that would take a chunk out of our infrastructure funds. And that's a very difficult thing to replenish. It's not just backfill it with 1 year's worth of surplus. Thank you.
So the advantage of me now serving the state assembly is we're in the middle of the negotiations and rolling out our economic relief program as we speak. So there will be direct economic stimulus and relief to Californians. There will be. That number is still being determined because we're negotiating with the governor. So I sit on the budget committee, and I have to tell you, while it is tempting to pause the gas tax now, that gas tax was hard fought by my predecessor to actually get needed road repairs in our own community. And also tell you why we can't just backfill. We have ongoing maintenance needs with a one-time surplus, one time. So that's why it's on our responsibility now in the budget committee to make smart use of these investments. How do we make sure we lay down infrastructure that will last decades? How do we get people off the streets instead of backfilling a need right now? While it is, of course, very tempting to provide direct relief right now, we need to also be looking for the long term. And government that looks out for the long term of our community works best for all of us. And that's what we're doing on the budget committee. So, of course, we're going to get direct relief to folks right now, but also look at what the long-term infrastructure needs are in our community. And in fact, right now, just like our Congressman Ro Khanna, I proposed a windfall tax on fossil fuel corporations. Right now, corporations like Chevron are making record amounts of profit right now, recouping their losses from the pandemic off of the pain that everyday people feel at the pump. And that's not right. So I proposed a measure to return that money back to us as well and add it to our surplus.
Candidate King.
Thank you. I actually do support this temporary relief of gas tax break. The other day I was pumping gas and my husband called me and said, "You put $99 of gas in your car?" I'm like, "Whoa, I didn't even get the most expensive grade," right? And so, this huge increase in gas prices may not be a huge deal for people, making $200,000 a year in the household, but it's impacting people, families with lower income, and they still need to go to work. So we need to make sure that people have the means, people can afford to put gas in their car. And also we need to accelerate our transition to 100% zero emission vehicles. We also need to accelerate our rebates to homeowners and renters to be able to purchase electric cars. So we know that people are heading that way, but a lot of people can afford it, but they do want to get electric cars. So that would be the future. But how do we get there? We need to make sure that people have the incentives to get electric cars. Thank you.
Thank you. So for this next question, we're going to do a lightning round 1 minute response. And for this question, it's provide an example of how you have supported potential or real legislation in providing water supply for Santa Clara County. Candidate Chu?
Thank you. I was on the water committee for 6 years, and I have definitely allocated the money to expand the Pacheco Reservoir and also the Anderson Dam. And I just want to take my 30 seconds to kind of rebuttal on the gas tax. The $200 relief fund is good, but I look at it as a separate issue with the gas tax, because a lot of people driving all electric vehicles still contribute wear and tears on our road. And the $200 is not really to address the issue. And if we can afford $200 to all the people, all the taxpayers, the state has the money to back some of the project that may be slowed down with a moratorium on the gas tax.
Thank you, Candidate Deep.
So during my time as a council member, I've supported infrastructure and water at the water treatment plant, and we have the state-of-the-art water filtration system with the water district out right here in North San Jose, right here in District 4. So at any time that anything came across my desk or up to council for a vote, I've been supportive of that. I also think that, finding new sources of water is important, of course, but it's also stretching the water that we do have. Looking at the way that our city runs itself across the state house cities, how water leakage through pipes, water faucets that have the spray that's not quite like a straight steady stream, but like a shower head. So we're reducing water. We're updating toilets from the 6 gallon flush to the new standard that's like what 1.5 gallon flush or something like that. So making sure that we use the water we have more efficiently goes a long way towards helping our communities grow and build the housing, and also having the water that we need for those communities to thrive.
So when it comes to the issue of water, again, I look at the incredible amount of work we did on the budget. We invested $15 billion towards climate resiliency. That's everything from drought to wildfire to making sure we also have money for improving our dams, improving our water recycling, and yes, down the road, maybe even desalination. We put over $15 billion towards that. And the reality is this: we need to be having as much storage as possible, recycling as possible, to stretch the water, the finite water that we do have, because drought is going to get worse if we don't solve climate change. And that's why also in the budget, we are accelerating our adoption of electric vehicles, electric appliances, green energy. It is so important for us to combat climate change, because we can build all the dams in the world, but if it stops raining in this part of the world, we are not going to be in a good situation. So we need to be solving that as soon as possible. And I point to the money we put in the budget.
So I recently toured the water recycling center down by by Zenkero. We really need to make sure that we are recycling our water more. We right now they're bringing water to schools, to San Jose schools, to some of the businesses, but we really need to expand that program, making sure that we are not using drinking grade water to water our lawns, to wash our cars. And we need to make sure that we have resources for our dams. We need to really have the education for the general public, how to conserve water. We're not, leaving our faucets open. We're not watering our lawns like crazy, or washing our cars. I think all of those things are much needed to help conserve our water. Thank you.
I think the question is posed starts talking about the problem. Our water policies are over 100 years old, and it's time to redo the way in which California allocates water. Too much, there was movies made about how the water wars, people have some water, some people don't. If we're ever going to get this state to really work together as people, we need to reform water. To fight, oh, I've got water, you don't. How dare you? What pricing do you have? How dare you? It's time. California has grown. It's time to restructure the way water is here locally. Certainly you're going to do more recycling, but I tell you, we need to do a lot of agency reforms, getting agencies to work better together. We need to talk about how the farmers use the water. It's time. Bob Brunton's willing to take them on in a gentle but strong way.
Thank you. We've now reached towards the end of our forum. And so for this last opportunity, you will have 1.5 minutes to share your final comments with our residents here today. And we'll begin with candidate Deep.
Well, thank you for your attention tonight, this evening. I hope that this event has been illuminating for you to find some similarities, but also some differences between each of us. I hope that you recognize that I've done my best to answer the questions as they were posed, not repeat the questions and then launch into talking points that I'm more comfortable with, but to face them, head on. I am also an attorney. I think I'm looking when I'm looking at Sacramento, looking at our state, I see the full legal infrastructure and the problems facing us, and I would take that legal lens at trying to peel back and making our government more efficient. More ideas are wonderful, but it's how do we sustain those ideas? How do we keep them long term? And how do we make everything have a underlying structure that works for Californians. And that is the kind of experience and expertise that I would bring in a role as state assembly member if given the chance. I have been endorsed by the Mercury News. I hope that that endorsement, of that paper means something to you, and that through tonight, through this discussion, you've seen why that I've earned that. So I sincerely hope that you'll have I'll have your support, and I would thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having this great forum today, and I'm blessed to have the opportunity that our district is only 2 hours drive away from Sacramento, so I can come back in time for it. I really hope to earn your vote again. I'm out there every week still knocking on doors, talking to people, and I understand people are frustrated. Just like 2 years ago, people are frustrated government doesn't work for them. They're frustrated, they feel fear about the way things are going, but it doesn't have to be that way. I was elected, I believe, because people wanted me to get up there and shake up how things are going. And we have to. We have to make sure that our government is accountable to us, not to the highest bidder. And again, that's why I don't take any corporate money. And we need to have all solutions on the table when it comes to climate change or housing crisis or homelessness. And that's why right now, as we speak, we are negotiating economic relief to people. What do we do about the most distressed folks on our streets right now? And how do we make sure housing is affordable for folks and not just commoditized by big speculative corporations? Those are all conversations I'm honored to be part of right now and in the room and advocating for us. Because right now, I can tell you this, being in Sacramento, there's too much of a bubble. People talk to lobbyists, they talk to special interests, they don't talk to normal people every day. And that's why I still do my office hours one-to-one. I go knock on doors, and that's how I met a lot of you. And I will continue to do that as long as I am honored to earn your vote and support to stay in office. That's also why I'm supported by the Sierra Club, the California Democratic Party, and our US Senator Ballotpedia. And I hope to earn your vote for another term in the State Assembly. Thank you.
The last 2 years have been extremely difficult for many of our families and small businesses. As the only woman and the only mom on this race, it is important that we have our voice heard. It is important that we continue to support our families, support our middle-class families, support the women, the moms that actually had to give up their jobs in order to support their kids who are doing distance learning for a year and a half. Support the businesses that close their doors. We need to make sure that our kids have the best resources in order for them to succeed. We need to make sure that they have those jobs that can afford them the rent. They don't have to live in cars while they're going to San Jose State. I'm the only woman in this race. I'm the only mom, and I'm a domestic violence survivor and a sexual assault survivor. And as we know, women's reproductive rights are being taken away probably in the near future. And we need to make sure that our voice are being heard and our rights are being protected. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Candidate Brendan?
Thank you. This is the only forum that all of us were at. And I don't know if the Dems had in a forum, but at least I'm glad you all invited me to join me with this one. My election will be very important to this district and the state for a lot of different reasons. But more importantly, I believe it's because I'm focused 100% on the future. Take what we have now and get it ready for our next generations, like my parents did. They have the courage to fix things so these young people can have better lives. They're talking about their frustrations. Bob Brunton, every single day, after he gets up, kisses his wife and thank God I'm alive, will say, how can I help you? And I mean it. I will work every day to use every skill I have to get along with them, get along with you, to find solutions to our problems and prepare this state for the future. This is only a 2-year job. When I come back here, I'll have a honeymoon of about a nanosecond when I get elected. So I'm the one who has to have to do a good job to be reelected. But I promise you, when you come back a year and a half from now, you say, Bob Brunton, what have you done? I better have some good answers or you fire me. But I will be trained to audit the state, fix the state, make it better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Shu?
Well, thank you very much for taking your time and listening to us. You know, we'll have 5 candidates. I've been running for re-election many, many times. This has never had 4 challenges. So, but I'm sure you'll be able to pick a better candidate to represent you at the state assembly coming in June. I'm a grassroots campaigner, like I stated, and I love to hear from all of you. So please come back to the BCAC meeting, you know, every first Monday of every month. And when I was on the San Jose City Council, I started I called it a community office hour, where I will go to the community in the evening after work, in a coffee shop, in a school library, in a community center, to listen to the people, so they don't have to take time out of their busy schedule to come to downtown and talk to me. I keep that tradition throughout my 6 years as a assembly member, rotating 5 different cities. So I listen, and I would love to listen to you. Please feel free to contact me, and I can deliver. I'll make your good ideas into the law of this land. Thank you very much. I ask for your support come June 7th.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of BCAC, I would like to thank all 5 of our candidates for being here this evening. We appreciate hearing your perspectives, and all of our members here in the audience, can we give our candidates a round of applause? Thank you.
You were a good audience. That was nice. And we do appreciate hearing from all of you. I'm sorry we didn't have more time, but we do have a time limit on the room. But I have a couple of things we need to take care of, and then we will have coffee, and there's water, and there's cookies that you have to eat before you leave. Otherwise, you know, we end up eating. And if the candidates would stick around, then you can talk to them personally, one-on-one, and do that if you want to do that. So that's why we're trying to make time for that. I have one business thing about, I got a message, I don't even remember who it's from, Community Development Partners, a new building at 525 North Capitol, so it's up this way a ways, will provide 160 homes of affordable housing for low-income families, seniors, veterans, and formerly homeless individuals. Join the meeting to learn more, ask questions, and share your support or concern. And the meeting is at 6 o'clock, 6 to 7:30 on May 26th, and it's via Zoom, and we will put it on our website. So you can look it up, go to our website, and I will give this to our webmaster there. Dick Santos from the Santa Clara Valley Water District is here, and he has a few things that he'd like to say and maybe give us prizes, just for really good people. Okay.
Berryessa Arts Festival, very nice. It was good to see everybody get together again. That was very good. You know, tonight's topics was a lot about what can you achieve and what's your priority. I can tell you this, you can say a whole bunch of things: development, housing, unhoused, economy, gas, you name it. You can't do it without water. That's just the bottom line. And folks, we're in a dire need, in a dire drought right now. It's a very serious. So we have these rebate programs. We have 22 rebate programs. I want to hand them out to you, pass them around. I won't take a lot of time, but this is a serious issue. You pass them around. Take advantage of it. You have free house calls. You can call up. We get bags of goodies. And here's some of them right here. These kind of things today. All kinds of little goodies in here. I won't take a lot of time. But as a fire captain retired of 33 years, I still got my 5-gallon bucket in my shower. And every day I put it on my trees. I feel good what I'm doing. And I know how to use water wisely when I was in the fire department. And now I've been on 22 years in the water district, and they use water wisely. You all have to chip in because we have to do it together. So I'll give a few bags out if you answer some questions to the persons. So here we go. To the front row young man right here. You have a water treatment plant up here. What's the name of it? I don't know. Close. It's called Penitencia. The first person to tell me how many treatment plants do we have in Santa Clara County? How many treatment plants do we have? Water treatment plants? Good guess, but not close. There's 3 water treatment plants. Oh, yeah, you can pass them out. Thank you. Do we have a recycling plant? Does anybody know where it's at? It's called a silicone advanced treatment plant. There you go. Give it Carmen one. Carmen Montaños, City Council Member Mel Peters, Vice Chair. And the most important, who is your director of the Santa Clara Valley Water District? You got it. Thank you.
So we learned a lot tonight already for Heavenly Days. Okay, we do have cookies over there and they were brought by the Hiko Yeda family. Close, I hope we're close. I just probably messed that all up. Nancy and her husband brought the cookies tonight and they're sitting out there. So on behalf of, it's Asian American Pacific Islander Month. And we lost a wonderful representative that was in our district, in our area, in our city for a very long time, Norm Mineta. We know the airport named after him, but he was such a wonderful person and he did so much for this community and this state, the city. I met him years ago, 1966, when he first ran for city council. And he never used his race as, you know, you vote for me and because I am Asian and because I was in the intern camp, never said that. He always said what his vision was, what he wanted to do and how he would accomplish it. So we will close the meeting tonight on his behalf and his honor. Okay, now get up, eat those cookies and talk to the candidates. You can get up, walk around candidates, don't sit still. Thank you all for coming tonight and especially the candidates. Yeah, thanks for coming. You did a nice job. An hour off.
have it to your BCAC. But the questions that come to you, why help with that? Right? Or we make a news email first. It's like questions that you if I get the BCAC on my phone, I feel like when we're getting emails about the airplane thing, I don't know if you guys are getting it. Like when I send them, like somebody asked some question today, I sent it to you. No. So I'm sending it to the BCAC account, not for my account. So like, for example, I sent you the invoice on solve. Yes, I got that. I thought it was them. Right. So if BCAC got the board, so things are all around, and that's different from the new one. That's the easy account. Yeah. So next time, if we do one of these things, instead of giving out your email address, just give out a but I just can't imagine my goal. I couldn't even respond. Yeah, no, I like your idea. That makes a lot of sense. Because what happens when it's not, right, and then the fact that it's out there in the literature, searchable. Thank you. Your wife has her, but I don't know why you don't have it. I'll make sure I'll write it down. No problem.